Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smudcast number 699. What if we rewrite Dragon Ball? As opposed to saying rewrote, so he's going to be rewriting it in the present tense.
On the fly.
Yeah, already I'm concerned based off grammar on this person's ability to write. So it could work, it could not work. In the world of fan fiction, it's usually trash. So we will see. The problem is the narrative or the body of work is Dragon Ball. And, was it for like 13-year-olds roughly?
I assume we're talking about the first series before that.
First series.
That's a good question. If there's so many versions, which one is it?
If he just says Dragon Ball, then I would assume it is the first story thing.
Yeah, the first season was great. It was fun. It was cute. It had, kids running around. It had Goku as a kid and figuring out.
Had great jokes.
And they weren't just for kids. That was like a PG-14 at least levels of comedy and scenes, which got cut, of course, in North America. But so if he's talking about that, okay, he's got lots to work with, and it's kind of experimental and it's kind of new and fun. Whereas once you
But does he though? What does that need any rewriting? Are there any major issues with Dragon Ball?
That's another good question.
To begin with,
I don't know. I don't think so. I think my memory of it was pretty solid. It was fun for what it was, and then it ended off with Goku losing his tail, and voila, he goes off on the Nimbus in the sunset to train or whatever. And then the next season of Dragon Balls.
Yeah. Basically, it ended with adult Goku winning the tournament.
Oh, right. So
it was basically the great finale with Son Goku has grown up.
Yeah.
Bam, fight.
So the first panel of the video is if we rewrote. So now he's going in the past tense. And the title of the video, what if we rewrite? So already I'm confused. Why did he do that? This is a simple change you can make on the title of your video. Just change it to rewrote. You have a script you made and you planned it out.
He obviously has tense powers.
These little things. If you're going to come at me as a writer or a fanfic guy, or it's like you're already, before we even hear the idea, we are getting different grammar, which is always strange for me. Because grammar, if you're a writer of anything, grammar is your number one skill for writing. It's how you write. It's the words, how they come out properly, they sound properly, they spelled properly. And already I'm a little concerned. But this is a show for kids. This is a manga for fun action scenes. It can't be that hard. So I'm expecting something along the lines of like martial arts. He knows something about fighting. He knows something about aliens that would be fun. Something along the lines that kids would go, oh, wow, that looks great. As opposed to just seeing Goku, let's say, standing in one spot or flying in one spot, throwing punches and kicks. That does not make too much sense to me. You need momentum. You need leverage. How does that work? Is he his own center of gravity? Like how strong is that gravity? Like there's got to be something.
You just push out your ki.
You just move your fist into the air and you throw a really hard punch somehow, right? Yeah. So there's got to be like if he puts science into it.
Look,
like,
you stay in the air by just constantly directing your ki down in a balanced fashion, like a very controlled eternal fart.
Something with some explanation for why or how these punches and kicks work the way they would. And there's all kinds of other things. We could use science. You could use mechanics. You could use anything spiritual in nature, supernatural. We already have aliens running around, so there's all kinds of technology and biology that doesn't make sense. I think we have some gods in the later stories. They're just chilling out, waiting to fight Goku. So we got lots to play with. So let's see what path he takes. Whether it's supernatural, technological, or just plain narrative. He's just going to make it cleaner. That would be fun. Okay. Let's see what we got. We got a Kyograss's Hideout. Thank you, sir. MasakoX was one of the main people on Dragon Ball Z Abridged, so he's very well versed in the series. Oh,
Okay.
that's good. I like Dragon Ball Unbridged. Okay. You should know what he's talking about. 14 minutes and a half. Let's get going.
Lately, the supposed rumors or discussions about a
Wait, is this his accent, or is he making something up?
I think
That's
it's
his
his
accent.
voice.
That's his accent. His what's
Oh,
called?
no.
Because how do I put when he does the Goku thing? Yeah, it's the hey ho, yeah, I'm Goku. Yeah, the American
Yeah.
accent.
Okay.
And then when he talks, it's the usual accent.
Okay, so he's not acting here. Okay, fair enough.
kind of mystical thing happening. There's been no official confirmation about such an initiative. There is still a slim chance that the Triple T wants to at least revisit the classical era of the show. But then again, who are we kidding? Basically, they're not treating Dragon Ball with the respect it deserves. They're just practically ignoring it. It's a bit of a ghost town around here, isn't it? We do not think, though, that they would be willing to create a completely new timeline to replace what was there in the first place, because that would be rather silly and sacrilegious, but rather something extra to enrich and modernize the first chapter of Dragon Ball. Something akin to the likes of Ultimate Marvel, which...
So he's doing a reboot.
Like Ultimate Marvel, he does realize that only Ultimate Spider-Man was the most tolerable thing in that whole run, right?
Yeah, this
Like
is...
everybody else was a bunch of jerks.
It's just, how about no?
Yeah, he wants to take the thing which is beloved and reboot it, and I'm like, why? Why would you do that? Okay.
To adapt it for a modern audience.
It's fine. It's pretty modern. It's about the future anyway, where these was it Capsule Co? They're this company that you could
Capsule Core.
yeah.
Core.
Yeah, they could just make stuff by throwing a little pill in the ground and it pops up a house. Like, that's awesome. That's amazing. That's ridiculous, but that's pretty futuristic. So what would you do? Like, make it like nanotechnology? Like slowly build the house and make it more believable that way? I don't know. You don't have to, but okay.
Capsules are fun.
and of course ended its running modern universe, running alongside the main timeline of Marvel Comics, and featured refreshed versions of the well-established characters, with culture and technology being current to the time period. Obviously, there is an argument that if they introduced Goku in the era of smartphones, even though he actually does have a smartphone in Super, it may lose its charm for when he was a child and had one. But I think that as long as it stays true to the original spirit, it can work, especially if they could do some polishing on the stuff that didn't age so well. So, right off the bat, we wouldn't change much in the first episode. Maybe make Bulma's seduction attempts less, revealing and demeaning. Though some people may say that Goku getting
Modern audience.
popped in the head
What is he
would
talking
not
about?
really fly well with modern audiences either. To that we say, no. It's so iconic and played mostly for laughs, so I'd say if it were framed correctly, it could work.
Okay, so he's saying the feminine wiles of Bulma is too much for a modern audience.
You know, a teenage brat, you know, using her ways to get her ways, you know?
I don't recall the female.
Yeah, when Goku is too young to understand any of
Yeah,
that.
that's the joke. That's the fun part.
Yeah,
But like, I don't recall Toriyama's art style being. Very...
he doesn't even know what panties are.
Yeah, I don't remember the females being very feminine or very seductive. I mean, they act.
Yeah,
that
not
way.
really, no.
Yeah, so like, what do you want to change? What was so offensive about? I don't recall anything being offensive.
Oh no, standard Japanese humor.
Cutesy wootsy little faces they make. Maybe, I don't know.
Never let him watch Shinchan.
Maybe a futuristic laser gun in the 90s, because, it got around the whole means of censorship, but it still looked cool. And also it'd be better than Bulma maybe just tasing Goku. But, seeing how Carmine was aiming at Pan with a proper gun in Superhero, and that was still PG-13, I don't think we would really have to really change that much. I think it could stay as is. But now...
So wait, he gave the example of the 80s with like G.I. Joe where they have like laser guns as opposed to bullets and no blood. Like, no. We're well past that. We're no longer in the 80s. We don't have to do that crap anymore. We're fine.
That's an American problem.
Well, Hanna-Barbera, yeah, whatever the issue is, don't even bring that up. We would never even touch that. We want to see the blood. We want to see people get punched and bruised and broken arms and all that good stuff. It's a fighting anime.
And what surprised me is Galaxy Rangers was an 80s basically anime, but with American writing. So they gave their scripts to Japan to have it animated, and then they cut it together in America. And they were shooting people. That was surprising. So it wasn't that this was just completely outruled.
Yeah.
For it. The meeting between Bulma and Goku wouldn't be an actual first episode. We already know this story, but if we want to add some meat to this, perhaps we could have some scenes between the boy and his grandpa Gohan beforehand, sort of like an episode 0 sort of thing, to make us care about Goku and Gohan. Maybe some
Not necessary.
Planet Vegeta flashbacks too, you know, to fill in
So
the gaps
side
between the
stories.
Dragon Ball Super Bro.
No, look, we don't need origin bullshit for everything. Is this an American disease?
Originally, he did a reboot. Now he's saying episode 0. It's like, if you're gonna do like anything with other characters, just do a side story. That's fine.
Yeah. Not just this. Prequels and origin stories are the most uncreative thing about American cinema and writing. It is the most boring shit ever. Nobody needs it. It's just filler. At this point, it's just filler. And we don't need more scenes with Gohan either.
That went down well in the Broly movie. We might have Gohan's death teased at the end, but still, the reboot version has a different perspective than the original series due to the world having been already established. You wouldn't want to repeat itself like many reboots do. So why don't we just plant some seeds for later events? That means people go like, oh, I know that bit. We no longer rely on Toriyama's improvisation, so we may as well start early. And hey, while we're at it, add some small scenes for Bulma, Krillin, Yamcha, show their early childhoods too. With
Why?
those three being the most notable early companions of Goku. I think we've earned a little
Why?
bit of context for all three of them. One big particular elephant in the room should also be Master Roshi. Now, listen, we're not going to be getting rid of him. He is a
This is
beloved
horrible.
character and a great mentor to Goku and Krillin, but the thing is that he really needs to be toned down in some senses,
No.
especially
Why?
when it comes to underage characters. He can keep his dirty magazines and have a
He's a creep is the
really
whole
shady
joke.
sense of humor, but nowadays we want him to be a little bit less invasive.
No.
He can have all of that stuff,
No.
just don't shove it in our face. As long as he
That's the
doesn't invade
joke.
anyone's
This is what I meant. He has the modern audience disease where everything needs to be censored, everything needs to be toned down. There are no jokes anymore. The old creeper man in Japan is a standard. That's fucking hell.
No, he's totally fine. I would make him even more. Not actually. No, I think he's fine the way he is. I wouldn't want him more perverted or less perverted. He's the wise old man who's super strong when he needs to be, and he's perverted at times. I think that's fine.
Yeah. And
personal space.
should I explain the
Personal space.
joke with his name?
I don't think he did.
Should I?
It's okay.
Okay.
As we stated, flirter attitude, which could add to the humor without being risky or even gross. You could even try and
Oh, you mean like Brock in Pokemon, whom they cancelled anyway?
Oh,
Because even that was too much for the modern audience. I bet I know what party this guy is voting for.
spin it in a way that makes people feel sorry for him. Like maybe he did have a love when he was young, and then he lost him, maybe down to illness or something like that. He promised to try and find love elsewhere, but failed to find a spark. He was jaded. He had to live alone on the island. But then as time went on, he had a very distorted face about what it's like to love someone. He then had to rely on his, yeah. So
no one cares. Why? Why a backstory with Master Roshi? What does that have to do with anything? It's not about him.
But while taking away what's funny about him.
Let's give him an entirely different story no one knows about, where he found love and it's like, why? That has nothing to do with Dragon Ball. Oh,
Drunken Mumble just realized that he's wearing the Chris Chan shirt.
Oh.
Maybe
Wait, hold on,
that's
let me see.
maybe that's
Oh my-
part of the joke.
Anyway,
Coming up with bad stories.
Here's here's registered sex defender. I don't know why there's 2 F's in there, sir, but all right. Why does MasakoX dress like British Christian? Also, I'll never forgive Dragon Ball Z. What is A? Dragon Ball Z. DBZA. I don't know what A is. For giving people the
Abridged.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks. For giving people the false notion that Goku is a bad dad. It's not true. Also, I'd like to remind everyone that Hellsing Abridged is terrible, isn't funny, and aged like milk. I watched a bit of that. It was okay, but I didn't continue. Like, I didn't care to.
It has its moments.
Yeah, it was fine.
Like
It was,
that one, I'll give you. It has its moments.
yeah, it was just long. I'm not going to watch this. It's too long, and I didn't really care that much. I already enjoyed Hellsing enough, Ultimate rather, that I didn't need to watch it anymore. So I didn't need a parody of it. Anyway.
Maybe some more scenes of Roshi when he's a badass, the wise martial arts teacher like he's supposed to be. Let's not forget who he is at his core. Now, once again,
The perverted
Pilaf
old
Saga
man.
wouldn't be all that different, aside from giving us some
Exactly.
more context about the places that they actually occupy. How did Pilaf gain a castle? Maybe some early mentions
I
of
don't
things
wanna
like
see how-
Kami, the World Martial Arts Tournament.
Who cares about that shit? This is background stuff.
It's like I don't want to see how Pilaf got his castle. I want to see him have the castle already. God damn it!
I don't want to see any more about Pilaf. He's
Yeah,
just
he's
a generic silly villain.
He's a punchline. We don't need this fucking screen time of hey, don't you want to know how this joke got his castle? Nah, get rid of that.
Not
Just
really.
cut it on the cutting room floor.
Is he just saying random things because he can fill a video with that?
I don't think fan fiction is let's start doing side stories for tertiary or secondary, if not tertiary characters. That's not what we have fan fiction for. Usually fan fiction is a power fantasy or some kind of fetish or something where you take the main characters and you put them in scenarios that you want them to be in. And how would they react? And this is how you think they would react. Not, what would Master Roshi be like 50 years ago? I was like, I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, Drunken Mumble is right. This is like the story of how Han Solo got his name.
Yeah.
You want to make a side story about every item that's in the show?
Yeah.
Then we're gonna have to watch Bulma buy her panties.
Oh, God.
You are alone, therefore your name is Solo.
Yeah.
That's an origin everybody wanted. And then they wanted to know how the Millennium Falcon is an annoying femboid who got put on mute.
Do we want to
Yeah,
know?
I love that, I guess.
Do we want to know how Roshi got his island? Like, not really. It's there. They go there. Everyone's there.
He capsuled his house.
Yeah, it's fine.
Snippets here and there. Also, give her a lot of stuff to do. She can help or be source of trouble, for example. Just make her a prominent side
Why?
Why?
While she has some cool stuff in the original, yes, of course, she's not as prominent as your memory would make you.
Why?
The story is about Goku and the Dragon Balls.
This is weird. He's just listing side characters. Let's do more with them. It's like, why? Why would you do that?
You're distracting from the story.
This is like, I'm going on a journey. Let's have like a million side quests where I just go off the rails and just do stuff. It's like, no, I want to go on my journey to where I have to go, not random. It's like the Odyssey. It's just, we just keep adventuring. We never get to where we need to go.
Some things are fun and interesting because they are just there. You just need to know for which things that works and for which it doesn't.
But eventually we got to get to the Golden Fleece. So like, we can't just keep doing side stories. This is silly.
During a and I do think that some of the battles have suffered the most due to the need of prolonging them. Just that means Toriyama can actually get away in terms of the manga.
That's budget.
And you can really add
The
some
battle
interesting
time
angles to
in
those
the
fights,
original
really
was
update them
fine.
with new visual technology. They already have some masterfully crafted choreography, because Toriyama was really good at that. You just need to capitalize on that in terms of presentation.
Okay, so he's not talking about rewriting. He's just saying, we have more money. Let's actually do full animation for Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. It's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but honestly, prolonged fights was a thing of Dragon Ball Z and onwards, not of the original series.
Right.
Together, you could come up about the supposed illusion, so no weird things about it disappearing, just bam. It's wacky. It's Dragon Ball. Roll with it. Not everything needs an explanation. That doesn't. The really interesting stuff would start with the Red Ribbon Army saga. First of all, introducing Dr. Gero early would be a nice touch. Sort of what we did in What If Android 21 was Goku's mother. Just having him around would actually really add some context from Z.
God.
He doesn't even need to interact directly with
He's
Goku.
foreshadowing, whatever. It's
he can
fine.
be one of the behind-the-scenes masterminds trying to thwart Goku, even though he never meets him in person. Considering how massive an impact he has later in the series, it would be nice to get an early look at him before he effectively became a brain in the jar and the last human villain in the entire Dragon Ball series. Obviously, I wouldn't retcon Gerbo, his son, to be killed by Goku like in the DBZA version, but we might have some flashbacks with him as well. Also, I don't think there is much of a need to make most of the commanders more serious. I think that they mix wonky and wacky and threatening well enough as they are, so just keep their personalities as is. But there is one character, I think, who would benefit from some maybe expansion and some extra scenes. Mercenary Tao. He is such an underrated villain, and giving some hints about his
Perfectly
brother
worked the way he
early,
did.
as well as making him more present throughout the series, would be kind of amazing. Making him...
Why?
He has enough scenes, and he's based on the villain in Drunken Master.
I don't see how that would make him more amazing by giving him more screen time.
Yeah, the scenes he has are perfectly sufficient for him. They characterized him well, they're good, to the point. And if you watch Drunken Master, you basically don't know how this guy works and who he is. It's cool.
A very ongoing to the latter part of the arc, perhaps? Finally, give us a little post-credit scene of Gero locking himself in a hidden lab, plotting his revenge, as well as
Some
a
more
young
of him.
Magenta trying to gather what's left of the Red Ribbon Army and maintain a front, so that means that Gero can continue his research. Nice bit of continuity.
I mean, that's the
there,
only
going
thing that
disappearing
kind of
showing us the stuff that we heard
might
about,
have a
but we were never
place.
allowed
Yeah,
to
but these are
see.
just hooks.
Next comes Tenshinhan Saga,
Like-
which introduces
Like he's just talking about, have a little
Because-
scene with this foreshadow, have a little scene with this filler, like where we figure out Jerome is doing it. It's like, yeah, that's fine. That's,
Yeah, but for Gero, this is the thing he did kind of come out of the blue. Plot over next plot. That's they could mesh into each other better.
Yeah, these are
That's
like-
the one thing I give him.
these are like accents or like, cherries on top of what's already there. It's like, yeah, sure, make a little ornament, a stinger at the end of the episode where, oh, Jerome's back, and what's he doing? We don't know. Like, that's just a hook to get you to watch the next episode, and then you flesh it out later if you want. But he's not really rewriting anything. He's just adding a little 10, 20-second scene to the show of the bad guy doing the bad guy thing. It's like, yeah, that's fair. No big deal.
Characters worthy thematic, even to this day. I would love to see some episodes from their point of view. Some flashbacks explaining their origins, how they came to be, and how they came across Master Shen. And of course, Yudin. We always said that one of the best fillers in Z has to be the androids having their road trip, as it really established their personalities rather well. And the fact was is that they were nothing like their future counterparts, they differed. It would be nice to have something similar here. And while we're at it, why not learn something about Master Shen himself and Tao? What's their relationship? Some flashbacks could lay a decent foundation for the future King Piccolo saga, teasing a great evil lurking in the shadows just waiting to be released. Other than that, key elements of the story could remain mostly the same. In a way, the biggest difference would be presenting the story from the perspective of Tenshinhan and Chaozu, showcasing their sympathetic traits early on, making us root for them as much as we root for Goku, Yamcha, and Krillin. Something
No.
that should have been done with Jiren during the tournament of...
You don't start having all these side character moments. I wish we had more of the side characters, and you get more of them. Then they become secondary characters or main. It's like there's too many characters to be focused. like, I don't know if you guys have read
Mhm.
stories where in manga where they have like, 10 characters and there's like a 5-man party or a 6-man party, and they have like a 5-man villain party. And there's so many characters. It takes so long to go through like a week of a war or something. And just like this character after character, all this backstory, all this conflict, all this buildup. And it's like, okay, like compare that to Noble Reincarnation. We have the main character, his childhood friend, his teacher, his mom and dad, his sister, and the maid. They all get, well, maybe the maid doesn't, but they all get some background info, and it takes like a whole episode. And we're in the second season. And, a lot has gone on, but they have a massive budget to do all the animation and to have these very long episodes. And they have at least 2 mangas going. So there's plenty of material to work with, so it's already proven to work.
If you focus too much on the side characters, you forget who the main character is. That's the simple issue.
And then
this is not because Dragon Ball is not Game of Thrones.
no.
Tell me who's the main character of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, no, there's no point to have all these characters if the next season they're going to go away, or maybe they're foreshadowed for a third season. Like there's reasons why they have that with that particular story. With Dragon Ball, you've already got tons of characters, and we always joke about all the human martial artists are just useless, like they're forgotten because the story isn't about them anymore. It's about Goku. It's about his family and what they're doing, and that's the focus, and that's fine. So if you want to have like a doujin where another author picks up a side character and tells that story, great. Ask Toriyama or ask whoever to, hey, can we license this to someone else, and they could write a little side story about this. It won't affect any continuity. People might read it. It might sell. Who knows? But to just rewrite for the sake of we have all these characters, it's like that's not a good reason. We have characters to functionally involve themselves in conflict, and then they're done. We don't need them anymore, and that's fine. It may be hanging on, whatever you call the cling. They just sort of cling on to they happen to be in the background. Like, we don't need them to know what they're doing. It's not important to the story.
Not that. First, introduce Kami early. It's super weird to not see those two interact.
No.
Make him more behind the scenes, yes, but still. This would allow us to get
He's
some
literally
more
the god.
Namekian and Guardian.
Not just that. He is the great twist. If you introduce him early, you ruin that. That's why Piccolo is the evil guy. That's what you're supposed to think all the time, that it's just him. And then you meet God.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Piccolo. Oh my God, we need to fight. That's the whole fucking joke.
We need to develop the villains, and I think Piccolo becomes a friend, and then he becomes an accomplice. So you have to develop these characters in a certain way. And
This guy does not know how to write, does he?
It's a little strange. Like, his suggestions aren't stupid, but they're like, you're missing.
No, he's just saying random things that seem obvious that you could say them, but they don't actually make too much sense if you think about writing a proper story, because the story is actually already well written and with only minor issues, and he's not really going too much into those. He's just making up other things that could be different, but absolutely don't need to or shouldn't, at least not with his examples. He's not a good writer.
And if you're building up a villain or a reveal, it has to have value. So these characters have to be like, oh, this is going to be the next stage of Goku's growth or challenge or potentially his death. Like, that's what you do with your characters. You mean, oh, this is a big reveal. It's going to change everything. And then Goku dies. It's like, whoa. And then he's in heaven. It's like, okay, what does that mean? Like, that's a whole arc. So I don't know why we're focusing on other characters aside from he hasn't brought up Goku once, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's all this other stuff. It's like
just in the beginning that he wants to see more interaction with Gohan.
I don't know. It's
which I find the wrong idea, because the whole thing is that the show starts with Goku being alone and we only learn that he grew up with an uncle.
All right,
But he's been on his own. We only know him as being on his own.
Here is Keelgrass's hideout again. Thank you, sir. To be fair, I think I get why he's mostly giving suggestions for ideas of characters other than Goku, and that might be because Goku is already plenty fleshed out enough, and this video is about changes, additions. He's adding things to tertiary characters that are pointless. This is the problem. He's just adding stuff. It doesn't help anything. It would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice if we got all kinds of background information on everything, but that's not making a healthy plot. That's not making a good pacing element to an arc. It doesn't provide conflict. You're just giving us information we don't need. This is the opposite of good writing. You do not add stuff. You get rid of stuff that is pointless. At least as far as I can tell, you don't want to add, what is this, a 22-minute episode? You don't want to add like, oh, we need another episode to introduce all this stuff, which has nothing to do with the plot. You're like, no, we cut it out. There's so much material in Dragon Ball. It's so big. Adding more is not the answer.
I think he's just bringing in what Team Foster did for Dragon Ball Abridged, which Drunken Mumble brings a perfect example for. He says, this suddenly makes me think of one of the jokes at the end of a Dragon Ball Z Abridged episode, where King Yemma gives a stupid lore dump on what his desk is made out of, what kind of tree, and how special it is, for literally no reason.
Oh.
It's a type of, it is a type of joke, but he here seems to do it for everything.
Swell.
Or early on. Sure. Like Senior in the mix. What? Come on, it's a great opportunity to see more of this guy. Also, the Demon Clan. Give personalities to some of the less prominent ones, because why not? They're awesome. And now that we're more familiar with the species, we can use some more of their staples in this kind of story. Honestly, we could combine both Piccolo sagas into one big thing, as nowadays, nobody would really be shocked by a grown-up Goku or Piccolo Jr. growing up to seek revenge. As with Tenshin Han,
you know who would?
Show us some more.
You know who would? A kid who sees this for the first time.
Of Junior's earlier life. Plant some seeds for him to become the being that we know and love. Plant more of those reformation bits early. Make it very clear that this Piccolo Jr. is nothing like his father. He has mercy. Maybe make him deal with his father's inner voice. Maybe he has some lingering oversight with his son, which dissipates and fades away over time. As for the actual tournament part, don't change it, because it's practically perfect. And touching the climactic encounter between Goku and Junior, that would be an utter travesty. We don't want to do that, so that's mostly it, really. Masako, you did an entire video just to say...
Oh, but before he complained about prolonged fight scenes, although Dragon Ball doesn't have that.
He's just addressing side characters. I don't get it. This is not relevant to the narrative. It's just a side character should have more screen time. You're like, was there a problem?
This is the thing I was telling you about. This is the thing I was warning about when it comes to these types of people rewriting stuff.
It just doesn't make sense.
That he actually can't? That he has no ounce of creativity in him?
There's nothing new. It's just this thing, only more of it because I liked it. It's like that has nothing to do with the story.
You know, they add more stuff, but you forget what the fuck, you know.
Oh yeah.
What made the other stuff good, or what made other stuff bad.
With the exception,
you're just adding more on top of the thing. It's like with, how do I put it? This is something we'll add an example of. You know, it's like soup. You know, you keep adding to the soup.
It becomes a stew, and you're like, this is no longer. Yeah. Well, he mentioned Master Roshi. Like, let's get rid of it. It's like, no, don't touch Master Roshi.
I like when Master Roshi's a pervert. I think it's
he's perfect the way he is. We love him for that. We love him for all his flaws.
He has the, what's it called? It's like, oh, that old man trope. You know, he has that trait, you know?
Yeah, it's like the grandpa in Ranma.
Yeah, give it to him. He's fucking old, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dragon Ball is... The entire show is pretty much perfect. And this guy is not intelligent or creative enough in order to improve any of it.
Okay. The data stuff and some of the filler. Really? I mean, you're not entirely wrong, but it's always worth showing how much connecting tissue could be added to make the series feel more cohesive, even though every single series of Dragon Ball has its own mood. Also, you said to yourself, we don't need to know everything. Why add all that garbage? We were fine without it in the original.
Talking to himself now?
Fine point, figurative audience member. But I also do think that if there's even a point in rebooting the series, you have to do some stuff differently. You might rewrite some characters.
Wait. Because we're rewriting, we have to do stuff differently? That's the argument?
You
Don't have to anything.
If someone
You
says...
gotta be faithful, you know?
Yeah, if someone says to me, go rewrite Chrono Trigger, I'm like, what would I change? Why would I change? The story's fine. It's simple. It makes sense. It goes from next... The pacing's fantastic. The set pieces are great. Why would I add... Like, there's no need to add stuff. That's the opposite of good writing. You get rid of stuff that doesn't have to be there so that you get to the next scene as quickly as possible with the proper amount of buildup so it doesn't feel too quick. As opposed to, let's say, Episode 9 of Star Wars, where everything is happening so quickly, the first half an hour, you're just like, I can't grasp what's happening. And I don't know where all these abilities are coming from. I don't know how suddenly Palpatine's back and now we're doing light speed skipping or something. Like, all this stuff is happening. Like, I've never heard of any of this crap. Like, that would require a rewrite where the story is already broken and you have to get rid of stuff or rewrite stuff so it makes sense. Not, hey, we should get this should be bigger. Like, this story is like 20 years old and still going. How much bigger do you need it to be?
Points, etc. But in our gain from rebooting the entire widget, other than throwing away the power creep for some time, and the sense of adventure and wonder, would be adding stuff.
The main Dragon Ball doesn't have power creep. What are you talking about?
He could have talked about the later seasons of Dragon Ball with the power creep. He did not talk about that yet. It's like, yeah, we could rewrite that. That's a good point. Rewrite how Form 3, 4 works. Yeah, do that.
Yeah, but that's Dragon Ball Z and whatever after that. Dragon Ball Basic. Dragon Ball. Does not have power creep. Changed my mind.
Lacking. Continuity setup weren't present when it was originally being created, when Toriyama first made it, because he was improvising as he went along. We're not saying that was bad, but you can't simply make Dragon Ball again, beat for beat, and hope for the same results, because people wouldn't watch it. You remember the whole thing with the manga? They're repeating the superhero movie, but in manga form? Nobody cares about it. Nowadays, people know, and there's quite a lot of stuff that can help us connect the overall story in a more simplistic manner. We don't need to see the destruction of Planet Vegeta or Beerus in the first episode. But Goku having weird dreams, as well as telling his grandpa about them, would be kinda cool because we would know the context. Also, stories that we could add at the end, after Piccolo Jr., could include some introductions to Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa, teasing what is to come,
I don't think you need
as
that.
well as an adaptation, perhaps.
You don't need to tease everything all the fucking time. And Goku doesn't need this stuff because in the beginning, when you start the story, he's just this innocent, dumb little kid. That's what makes him funny. That's what makes him, I don't want to say relatable, but endearing. Not any of this mystery nonsense. The only thing weird about him is that he has a tail for some reason.
Garlic Jr. a lot of stick on the channel, but this story with Piccolo, it adds a lot of context with Kami, and it's pretty easy to fit in the timeline with just changing some of Krillin's dialogue. Once again, with reboots and retcons, you always give something new for something you have taken. You don't just copy. There is stuff that we won't really miss in Dragon Ball, but you always have to consider if the stuff that you are actually adding into the mix is worthy.
I bet there will be someone who will miss whatever it is you name.
There are many voices asking if the series even needs a reboot. It was very much a product of its time, which became great, but wasn't yet aware of having to hold a colossus that is the entire franchise on its shoulders. That's not what we want to discuss here, as there are so many pros and cons to that we would never get a proper resolution. For some reason, this is the time of year when people think that it's coming. Is it this time? Hard to say. It's rather clear that they have plans for Goku, Vegeta, and Broly, as well as Black Frieza. That is certain. They are, or should be, seeing how much superhero earned in the West, and their audiences, have vastly different tastes based on the origin of the world. And as sad as this statement would be, a lot of Dragon Ball fans don't really care about the original Dragon Ball, treating it as just a prequel series. Some people were lucky to see it in the chronologically correct order, but most didn't. But the thing is that the original Dragon Ball is important for the franchise, your problem. For the shonen, and even for the manga or animated media. Next to Sailor Moon and later series of Pokemon, it might be one of the biggest franchises that has introduced the idea of manga and anime outside of Japan. And although it's dated and problematic at times, it's still important to this day. We wouldn't say no or yes if a reboot was confirmed. If it's good, it can do well with refreshing the series and giving us some rest from all of the godly stuff that starts to become even more ridiculous as it ages. And, dare we say it, now a little bit stale. However, if it's bad, well, it could belittle the pre-Z era of Dragon.
It is only to you because you've seen so much and you are old. You're not a kid anymore. Things are not new anymore to you. You want them remade so that you can relive that while your knowledge of the future of the story is also somehow tickled. You don't know how to write the beginning of a story for someone who sees it for the first time. You're a horrible writer.
The only thing I want remade in the case of games I like is to play them on newer hardware. I would not want to remake something and then change things for the sake of it. That's silly. I want exactly the same experience I had from 10, 20 years ago on new hardware, and it runs smoothly, and that's that. That's all. I don't need... You could upgrade the graphics, yeah, sure, whatever. But that's with 3D. With classics, no, don't touch them. Leave them alone.
Oh, Legacy, good spot. I did not notice that. I zoned out from his babble.
Anyway, we're almost done.
Yeah.
Of Dragon Ball even more in the eyes of some fans, which would be a crying shame. But hey, seeing how many Easter eggs that the Broly movie and the superhero movie had, and seeing how much lore that those two movies managed to pump out, we are really sure that the creators themselves are interested in exploring more about the world itself. I mean, after all, we already know the story. I mean, what's left? The crazy, crazy Dragon Ball world.
The Dragon Ball world looks like the Dr. Slump world, where you also have the capsule stuff.
Yeah.
That's it.
All
That's
right.
your world. If you want to know more about the world, watch Dr. Slump.
Yeah, that was enough for me. I think that was a pretty silly video, but it's just these are bad ideas. There's only the only one I liked was the foreshadowing with the Dr. Gero. I think that's about it.
That's the only thing.
Yeah. Like it would be. Yeah, it would be.
Anything
nice
else? Anything else is garbage.
Yeah. But that's what we expected. We expected bad takes from fan fiction. So there we go. Anyway, let's get the stream memes. We're on Legacy. Thank you, Legacy.
Hooray!
All right. So we'll take the Marvel Universe in a new route and make it realistic in dark violence, incest, sexual overtones, cannibalism, etc. How would this appeal to a younger audience of new readers? A younger audience.
Hence why I said this thing is don't go the fucking ultimate route. Because then you only have one good thing in there. And then everything else is just that.
There's our Master Roshi buffing up and instantly. I love it. Modern audiences. Okay.
That is too small to read for me.
He looks more like Liquid Chris than Chris Chan. Liquid Chris.
Oh, I remember that guy.
Yeah. Here we go. Comments from the chat. I'm more concerned that a teenage girl seducing a little boy is treated like a joke. What if we write Dragon Ball? What if I write you a eulogy? Wait, isn't that what My Adventures with Superman is? Dragon Ball Z made for modern audiences? Is that a thing? My Adventures, is that a show? I haven't.
That is a show, unfortunately.
Oh, jeez. Roses are red. My name is Jack. Hold your fire. The man is in black. What? What am I reading? Future Trunks? Okay. Oh, boy. It's not... I'm not even going to read that. It's going to take too long. I would like to give this trophy to the best father ever. I was referring to Mr. Piccolo. Oh. Is that the joke? People say he's not a good dad, but some people do. Why is Mixelpidalic?
Oh yeah, that's what he looks like, and people claim it's a Dragon Ball looking character.
Oh.
It's a Dragon Ball looking character, even though it's probably that looks like something from memory, not
Yeah. Robbery happening at the gas station. Me next to the fuel pump with a lighter. Oh my god. Indeed, we're matching in pink. Android 21 and what's his name?
It's Boo.
Boo. There you go. Thank you. Forgot his name. Skin tone pink. Oh boy. Cute. I like it.
Wait, that's not how. That wouldn't even work out because even Shenron couldn't do that.
I wish you'd have killed Jafar.
Because they wish to get rid of the Saiyans, and it's like, nope, can't do that.
Yeah. Out of context, Lithero. Eggman is forklift certified. What? 22 seconds. What? Do I have to play this? Oh. Does this have anything to do with Dragon Ball? Come on, guys. You got to give me more context on that. I know this is off topic. However, if you want a better rewrite, look up the channel Bionicle Revised, which doesn't waste your time with needless stuff and knows where to add more, like Turaga Vakama having second thoughts of banishing Takua at his request. Okay. Bionicle Revised. We'll check it out. Eggman pulling out the Nokia. What is... Why are we talking...
It's an indestructible weapon of mass destruction.
Okay. This is if you meshed Sonic and Dragon Ball together, I assume. All right. Okay, and here's our last one, which is actually a comment from Kilgris. I do feel remakes should add stuff, but not change existing stuff, unless, in terms of video games, if there was a mechanic that required a specific console feature like touchscreen stuff in DS games. Oh, okay, so you're just making a video game, essentially, with new features. All right. Well, that was pretty easy. Yeah, we expect it to be bad. It was not horrible, but it was useless. So all of that.
I think it was horrible.
Yeah, well,
because it was useless.
Well, I mean, we've heard way worse. At least I have read and heard of.
I would have rather listened to the weather forecast.
Yeah, I'm sure most of us would, as opposed to the videos we cover. But I'm just saying, there's way worse fan fiction out there for Dragon Ball. This was just, I want to add more. I want to get rid of Master Roshi, and nothing to do with the main characters. Zero.
I just tone down Master Roshi and give Pilaf an explanation for why he got his castle or how he got his castle. And the only worth a damn thing is literally still just the Jiro thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was interesting. Thank you guys for the suggestion. I would prefer something a bit more meat on the bones, but light, easy meal is good too.
And you could do a double feature at some point.
Yeah, I guess so. If you guys have two small ones we can cover, or we know they're going to be small, like you guys watch it and then say, oh, this one's dumb. There's nothing to talk about, but it might be fun to cover. Here's another one the same size. We could do that, sure, no problem. But to find those two is very difficult. So anyway, thank you for the suggestion. Keep the voting going. Keep the suggestions coming. And we will talk to you guys soon. Have yourself a good day. Take it easy. Good night.